All right, everybody, we are back.
Can we wait, this turned on too?
Sure, you could try to turn that on.
It's,
Oh, okay. Ellie, can you hear me? Where's Ellie? You're on, Ellie. You're saying you're on, but I don't hear you or see you. Let's try this.
Okay, people are joining. Oh, there you are. Hello, hello.
Oh, here we are. We're back now, guys. Ellie, Miguel, you guys can hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome everybody back to our next session of our roundtables. This time, we are jumping right into the topic of trade shows and events. I want to tell you guys, events and trade shows is a huge part of our customer success. Let's talk about trade shows for just a minute so we understand the importance of it. When it comes to sales, when you go out and try to get customers, you have so many different parallel avenues to go and attract clients. One of the big ones is going to trade shows. Today, we are joined by our very own Miguel Torres. Miguel, how are you? Nice to see you again. Miguel
has to be here. Lunch with Michael. I'm excited.
Miguel, you've been to many trade shows with us, and I wanted you to be here so we have, of course, our inner circle of feedback as we learn from our guests today and from the stories that we have and the tips and tricks of how to succeed at a trade show. We're also joined by none other than Ellie Goldring. Ellie, I'm so excited to have you with us. Ellie, why don't you give yourself a quick introduction to our audience?
Ellie Goldring. So happy to be here. 18 years with Culinary Depot. Started out as a simple boots on the ground salesman. Fast forward 18 years later, sitting in a seat of business development and overseeing a team and interacting with prospects and clients of all sizes, of all industries. And I'm excited because this topic happens to be very, very dear to my heart. And I think that's why Michael chose me to come onto this one over here, because I tell people I've probably done in my career close to 1,000 trade shows, if it's exhibiting or just attending. And it frustrates me to see people waste so much time on the floor or money exhibiting, and they don't even know why they're there. They're not even sure what to go home with. And I was at a trade show yesterday. I asked 5 people, why are you here? Like, I don't know. So let's dive into it and let's talk about it.
I love it. So one of the best things about this is that we have interactions. I just have to open my message box. I am not sure. Do you see the messages that are coming up?
I got to see in the private chat. I don't see anything. I think I see a couple of people that are joining from different platforms. If I'm reading this,
let me know if you can see the chat. I right now cannot see the chat, unfortunately. So we usually have a lot of interaction with people who ask questions and get interactive in the session.
I do see a message there from Steven. He did post that he's looking forward.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, I'm seeing it now.
Saying, go Ellie.
Okay, yes. Go Ellie. Yes, thank you. Looking forward to lunch. Okay, thank you. Yes, Steph, we're back. Thank you, guys. We have a lot of fans out there. We appreciate you joining us. So, guys, let's take a step back and talk about trade shows. Ellie, by the way, how many trade shows would you say you go to a year?
I can only tell you from a different perspective. There's actually a goal for me year end to attend 36 trade shows. So if you have to split that up, it's roughly about 3 a month. But then there are months that I just don't attend to any. And then there are those that I can actually attend 2 a day. So it varies from the trade shows to the networking to let it be a mastermind, any of those type of settings where I'll be able to interact with multiple people. So for me, the sense of multiple people, it's like 5 or more.
That's great. I do want to tell you that there's a lot of local events happening in everyone's area. And I think that's one of the little tips and takeaways that I'm going to let everyone in on a secret is that in every town, there are get-togethers. There are food service director get-togethers. There are clinical director get-togethers. I'm not sure, Ellie, if you've gone to any of those, but I've been to many of them. And the reason why they're so successful is because they're very intimate and you get to meet people and spend real quality time with them. So like, food service council meetings or clinical director meetings. And that's like what you mean when you talk about trade show, throughout the year. 36 trade shows are a lot. I met someone a few weeks ago that said he's gone to over 100 trade shows in 1 year. And that's like average 2 a week. I mean, that's crazy. But let's first talk about trade shows and the significance of being in a trade show or at an event. First of all, so we can separate the two, there are very different types of trade shows. For the sake of this discussion, we're going to separate it into 2 different categories, and we're going to only attack one for these upcoming sessions. So,
Michael,
yeah,
you got to stop because you have a duplicate of voice behind you of everything that's being said. I don't know if everyone else is hearing the same thing.
okay, hold on a second. It could be.
Do you hear it?
It's coming in clear on my end, Ali.
Okay. I don't know why, but I have like a 30-second delay.
Okay, how's it now?
Okay, much better.
Okay, thank you guys. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's okay. We had 2 mics on, so we're good. So there's two
Good.
there's 2 main elements to trade shows that I've seen in my past, and I've gone to both types. One of them is extreme high energy, where they're writing POs on the spot. Ellie, you ever go to those type of trade shows?
Yes. I'm still hearing myself twice. I don't know why. Okay, maybe I have to check in and check out. Hold on 1 second.
No,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We'll have him back in a minute. And meanwhile, we're going to continue. There are 2 types of. I have to let him in as well, though. So I'm gonna need to let him in. Okay. Here we go. You're back. You're good, Ellie? No? No. Everyone on the program is saying that it's working fine. So we're going to continue. And we'll get you back in as you join. As I was mentioning, there are 2 types of trade shows. There's one that's high activity, where you're walking down the trade show and you need to sell products on the spot. We're going to have a guest join us in a few weeks from now. Hi, Ali. We're back. How's that?
Okay, it was on my side. I'm so sorry, everybody.
No.
You see, sometimes confusion gets in the way.
No, it's
But
okay.
yeah.
It's the beauty of going live. It's very
There you go.
vulnerable. Anything can happen, but we're back together and we're stronger than ever. So I was saying there's 2 different types of trade shows when it comes to different industries. One trade show is a high energy trade show where you're going and if you don't get purchase orders from the trade show, it's considered a failure. Ellie, have you ever been to those types?
So I have, and it's very interesting because I think the world's taken a shift in that perspective. When I started out in the Culinary Depot food service industry, the largest regional show in New York was in the Javits Center, okay, in March, the restaurant local show. You got people coming in literally with stacks of quotes. They were handing them out and like, I'm ready to close this deal today, next week, in 3 months, in 6 months. And the goal of that show was to get as many opportunities in your hand, because it wasn't about shaking his hand and getting to know him. He wasn't interested to get to know you. It was just about getting those opportunities. I think today the trade shows are much more in the sense of prospecting and funnels and getting to know people and to learn from each other. So my perspective is that the whole world took a shift in that, but it's very possible that in other industries, it is very much still, direct on. We're gonna start with a new vendor, and I'm meeting him at the show. I mean, me and you have been to ECAP. I know that happens at those round tables there, but it's a much more intimate setting. It's not, the Javits Center. It's not Orlando's trade show. So yes, it still exists, more on a peer-to-peer, I call it, a one-on-one type of situation. Then they have the big floor for networking and all that. So it's alive. It's good. And I think it's a certain mindset that people should come prepared, in the sense of being active and ready to close the deal.
Absolutely.
Michael,
Absolutely.
We can go into the point that just for a second, if someone's in sales, does he even reflect on himself? Is he a closer? Is he a hunter? Is he the farmer? Is he the lead retriever? Is he doing the research for it? There's so many different roles within sales. I think that's, a good element to,
Absolutely.
get clarity, so you go to the right shows for the right reason.
I have a few things to say on it that's really, really important.
Go.
And by the way, Philip, the way to find out about those local shows is, honestly, it's just, you have to use Google wisely. There are certain tricks of what to say and how to say it. I'll include it in my comments on the LinkedIn post once we're done here, of how to search properly for local events. But I have to tell you guys, you're ever sitting around with, your friends or your spouses or significant other, and you're saying, I want to do something interesting, something exciting. And, you're thinking of, a show to go to, like a concert or a getaway. I have to tell you that there are some conferences and trade shows that are more fun than, well, not more fun than the Def Leppard concert that I was, but more fun than many, many outings that people go to. And I'll give you an example. The largest trade show in the United States, I believe, is the Consumer Electronics Trade Show, with over 150,000 attendees. Talk about people watching, right? We love people watching. That alone is an event. Hey, let's go to this trade show. I was once at a carnival trade show. The world of carnivals is tremendous. And to see the newest rides, the newest 3D, activities, and seeing the newest games and all the different cool things that are keeping people busy, you can go to Vegas just for the electronics show, and it is amazing. There at that show, they're taking purchase orders. They're taking deliveries of products on the spot. Similar to, I have a friend of mine, he got into the vaping business a few months ago. He's writing purchase orders at the show. There's other type of trade shows, talking about large trade shows. For example, in China, I think it's the largest one in the world, once a year in China, where they have the manufacturing trade show. There, it's not just about making purchase orders. It's about both. It's about creating the relationships, finding the right manufacturer, and creating the purchase orders. Then there's the one in Germany. I don't know if you know the one in Germany, but one of the largest in the country in the medical world takes place in Germany. Also over 100,000 attendees. I think it's called Medica or something like that, where anything medical related, when you have a new product or a new service or a new delivery of service, it's showcased over there, where you're actually just learning about the product. So guys, let's get right into it. This is a 3-part series of being successful at trade shows. Being successful at trade shows means being confident, means being confident, means being vulnerable, means figuring out what the tricks are to do the 3 parts that we're going to have this series based on. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 is preparing for a trade show. Number 2 is at the trade show itself. And number 3, which I think is the most important one, Ellie, and you'll tell me if you agree with me or not, is follow-up. Follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. So I'm curious what your thoughts about that are. That's the process that we're going to talk about in this 3-part series: preparing, attending, and follow-up. And we're going to go through all the tips and tricks and ideas of how to do it best. And Miguel, you've gone with me to at least 10 trade shows in the past year. What do you feel is the most important part when you're trying to prepare for a trade show?
I mean, it's just getting comfortable in what you're walking into, the type of trade show. Like, for example, you talked about the purchase order trade shows. When it's a product-driven trade show, you have people going in knowing that they're going in to get a product. When you're going into a healthcare trade show, it's more of getting ready the information for the needs of the customer. You don't know what direction it's going in. You don't know what services they'll need, but just being prepared. Not only being prepared with like all that before stuff, just getting familiar with the actual setting. So are you in a big conference? Are you in a downtown? Are you in, a big area where people are going to need directions? When I talk about preparing for a trade show, I usually like looking at a map, knowing where the bathrooms are, the restaurants are, the conference rooms are. So if anyone's there saying, "Hey, listen, how do I get to this conference room?" Hey, let me walk you over. It's actually in this direction over here.
I will tell you, Miguel, that's a perfect idea in talking about preparedness. And Philip, you asked me a minute ago about how to find the local shows. PrimeSource is working very, very diligently to release a website called seniorcareevents.com. We're going to be releasing this website very soon to the world, where it's going to identify for you all those nuances of how to be properly prepared for a trade show. How large is it? What's the floor plan like? How many attendees come? What type of vendors are there? Where it's located? Who the speakers are? All the important pieces of information for you to prepare yourself properly. We're going to be coming out with it soon, and I'm super excited to launch it really, really soon. And we're always taking requests from people and love hearing feedback. Guys, chat with me. Tell me what else you think is needed to prepare for a trade show. Ellie, back at you. What do you think is needed to prepare for a trade show?
So I'm going to step back because I tell everybody, the sharings that I do with these different perspectives, wisdom, and teaching, I almost start with what I'm like in the moment doing myself, and then I can go back like all the way what I used to do. So I'm going to say that prepare yourself physically, mentally, and psychologically from the sense of understanding. Like you said, I'm the same way with the mapping, by the way. I figure out, like, I always go on the website. I spend 2-3 hours on the map, understanding who are the big sponsors, who is it within the sponsorship that I want to go meet, who is it that is going to be a referral factor for me, who's a client factor, who am I going to network with. So I kind of compartmentalize it. I'm going to use that word from the sense to understand, okay, I have 8 hours. Who is it that I have to meet? I remember going one year to the NAFM, which is the largest food service show in Orlando every 2 years. Back in the day, okay, when that show was, I think it was like almost 3 million square feet. Okay, it took 3 days to walk that show. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people, but it was up there. Okay, tens of thousands or maybe even 100,000 plus. I had my 10 highest, and I created almost a route in the sense of like, who am I going to meet first? Obviously, if I could set an appointment, it's ideal, not for that size type of trade show because everybody's off timing. Everyone's having longer or shorter conversations. So I don't recommend on the big scales and preparation. But if it is a smaller event, I do that now. My goal is to have 3 pre-scheduled meetings with people. Otherwise, I don't know if I went home fulfilled. Like, I have to meet that goal. After that, I'll fill the gap and do my best to utilize the time. So preparing, and in that sense also understand, why am I going to the show? Am I going to gain knowledge? Am I going to network? Am I going to pick up new clients? Am I going to connect to my existing clients? And that's what helps you almost go back to that mental and
Ellie, you said it so nicely. I want to jump right into that because you honestly, it's funny. I have notes in front of me. I prepare a lot for these shows, for this program, and I like to have my facts straight and, get into like the ideas of why I did it. One of these questions that's glaring at me on my notes right in front of me, literally, is ask everyone why they go to trade shows. And in here, I have to tell you, it's almost a verbatim of what you said. And I'm going to read you in a minute what it is that I wrote. By the way, Ellie, everybody wants to know what's for lunch, because the truth is I've been getting that question a lot. It's lunch with Michael, but I don't have lunch in front of me. I'm going to start actually having.
No, but 1 second. The menu was that we're going to prepare for the trade show.
Tips and tricks and stories.
Being at the trade show. Let's look about timing over there. Okay, and then the follow-up is dessert. So if you don't have a pen and paper in front of you and taking down some nuggets, you're going home hungry.
I love that, by the way. You know what? You know what? Let's use that to go right back to where we were a minute ago. If you don't make phone calls and you don't set up meetings or understand your audience prior to going to a trade shows, you may as well not go to a trade show altogether. You're wasting your time. You have to go prepared. It's like making a cold call. We had a 3-part series in the past few weeks that we spoke about making cold calls. you can ask everyone and they'll tell you. I'm curious if they'll write it on the chat here, what it is. So I won't mention it until someone writes it here. What are the 3 most important things prior to making a cold call? Let's get into the idea of why you go to a trade show. Let me tell you why I go to a trade show, just so we're on the same page. I go to a trade show for all those reasons. To me, picking up customers and engaging in new potential clients, there's many different roads that you can take. But when you go to a trade show, you're accomplishing so many things in one. And I'm going to break it down for what you just said a minute ago. Like Kim is saying on the chat here as well. Thank you, Kim. It's about branding. So let's talk about the branding, just part of the branding that you're starting with. You know you're going to a show and you know you want to be relevant in the industry and you want to know that people can see you and you can have that conversation and you want to be relevant in general for your brand. So the most important thing I think from going to a trade show on the top of the list, the top of the mountain is you want to go because you want to help build your brand, right? You want to go because you want people to know that you're there. You want to go on LinkedIn to ask anyone who's going. You want to start engaging, put it on your status, talk about it in your blogs, put it out there, let people know you're going to a show. Then people know that you're active. Oh, Eli is going to another show. That means he's going to be educated. That means he's going to network. That means he's going to connect. And that means he's going to come away with leads. So I love that top level idea of branding. And Kim, thanks for sharing with that. And I want to build on that a little bit. So we spoke about the reasons why we go to shows. And Eli, you mentioned a few reasons. I want to say the reasons again. I'm going top level for branding. I'm going so I can see current customers. Thank God I've been in business long enough. Eli, you and I both go to trade shows and we see current customers that we don't have the opportunity to see every day. It's just not easy to make appointments with everybody and have the opportunity to really connect with them on an educational and entertaining platform, which is what trade shows give to you, which is why it's so important. So just reconnecting to our current clients is important. That's the second level, I would say, right? And of course, education. There's so much education. And I want to tell you one of my secrets of how I get clients at trade shows. And I want you all to listen very, very carefully because this is something that I tell Miguel and I tell Shane and Anna and I tell our team internally. And I'm sharing the secret with everybody because I want you to learn this from me and I want you to adapt this. Go to the educational seminars. Sit yourself down for an hour. Instead of being outside on your phone or eating an extra dessert, go into the seminar. Number one, you'll be educated as to what's happening in the industry. And number two, most of the people that are the speakers of that seminar are operators, are interesting people that you can go over afterwards and say, I loved your speech. You know, it's funny. I was in an ECAP the other day, and there was somebody there who strategically asked the question. It was brilliant. And, it was just unbelievable. He stood up and he said, yes, I have a question. And he was a vendor. And he asked such a superb question. And it got an engagement for 2-3 minutes. And then afterwards, he was able to go over to every one of them and say, what a great conversation. And it just helped him so much. And of course, the last thing that I'll say is leads. Of course, you have to create those leads with making the preparation. And how do you get to those leads? We'll talk about it. Everybody knows that I like to come on these LinkedIn live show with a shirt representing the attitude that I want to portray on this program. The attitude that I want to portray on this program today, look out for hints, look out for topics, look out for discussion points. If someone's wearing an American flag, go talk to them about the Olympics. If someone's not wearing an American flag, find a reason to talk to them about what's going on in the Tour de France, or talk to them about what's relevant today in the industry, or find something to compliment them on or make a conversation with. Eli, what do you do in terms of your preparation on all these elements? What's most important to you, or do you look at it that way as well?
So like I said, for the preparation, these days I go extremely focused. And I'm going to take you back to a quick story. I went to a job fair. Now, a job fair is not a trade show. So why did you go? Because I went to represent the Eli Goldring brand. And people know me for wearing multiple hats, and I'm in multiple careers. And yes, I'm fortunate to be able to split my time in many different ways. And it was on a Sunday, and it's a family day. I told my wife, if I have one meaningful conversation, I'm coming home. And I went at 11 o'clock for that same reason that you mentioned before. So I want to give a tip for people to write down. Why sit into a seminar? There's 1,000 people I can meet. Let me tell you something. those prospects that you want to meet, hopefully they're sitting in that seminar with you and they're inspired to see that you're curious, that you want to learn about the industry. They see you sitting there and they're like, oh, this guy knows more than he needs to. So that's about that. So that's what I went to for this job fair, because I actually watched Iris Lotowitz that time. So I got to give him a shout out. Great friend.
He's great.
mentor
He's
of mine.
absolutely terrific.
He's awesome. So he spoke. So I went at 11 o'clock in the morning. The job fair started at 1. No jokes, Michael. I had at 1:15 a meaningful conversation. At 1:30, I got into my car. I was back in Lakewood at 3 o'clock. So the point was I came very, very focused that I'm going to have one meaningful conversation. That was the aha for me. That was what that was going to do for me. So the preparation is understanding really what is it, when it looks done. What does done look like for you? And then play your cards backwards. Like, how many people do you have to meet? Where are you in your quota for sales? Are you in your quarterly area of closing deals, finding new prospects, nurturing your current clients? I mean, I go down to the healthcare Atlantic City show. I don't go on the floor, not to be disrespectful for anybody. I go at lunch. I'm going there to have fun with my existing clients. I sit down, I tap them on the shoulder. Either I'm meeting pastrami or having a soup with the guy, and I just have fun. I talk about nonsense, and I'm there for 2 hours, and I'm out.
But you know what the best part about that, Elliot, and I think that you can expand on that a little bit, is that the first thing that I had in the back of my first business card is the greatest compliment of our service is your referral.
Yeah.
You can go eat lunch with somebody and have a good time and not even get onto the show floor, but just ask your friends and ask the people that you're connecting with, can you make a referral for me? You'd be so surprised that when you ask someone for help, how willing and eager people are to help others together grow in this industry. It's
so
just,
Michael, I got to double down on that one for a second, because I went through Charlie Hawk, a great coach out there. So anybody in sales, I highly recommend his coaching class. I'm not here to plug him, but do your research so you understand why you're going. Again, what does it look like when it's done for you so you understand it's the right thing? Now, I'm not going to go through the statistics, but I just want to give you a high fact point, okay? Referrals. If you do your research, which someone, by the way, said it, it's research in regards to...
Yes, thank you, Stefan. That's the
Yes,
pre-call.
Okay, that's the pre-call, exactly. So if you're doing your research, and I'm going to tell you guys, spend 95% in the research category, okay? That is the hardest part of the sale. Closing the sale takes nothing to do. Either the guy needs it or not. And finding the right prospect is the hard thing, because once you're in the meeting, unless you stumble on your words, then don't be an outside salesman. Do internal if you're an introvert. But back to Charlie's point, okay? The referral. So you did all your research. You got introduced to this prospect through a friend. The trust is there already. There's no reason to sell yourself. The guy doesn't even care what religion you believe in, or he doesn't care what you sell even, because the other person opened the door for you, okay? You're in the door. Just listen to that person's pain points, because you did the research, and what you're engaging with the person is addressed around that person's pain points. Because you did your research. You know he has 100 buildings. So you could dive into the fact that, is it streamlined in regards to your medical supplies? Well, if a guy has 3 buildings, he's not so worried about streamlining. But if he has 100 buildings, maybe that's a good topic. Now, you did your research. You asked maybe another vendor. I do that sometimes. I go to other vendors that provide my prospects with services, and I tell them, like, tell me what the buyer really loves. Like tell me what resonates with that person. So
I'll tell you, another big referral source is vendors. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, but one second, Michael. Here's my point. 97% closing ratio in sales with a direct referral where you understand that person's pain point. So for those people that are eager to close fast, spend 95% doing your research, show up on time. Like my guy used to say back in the day, polish your shoes. Don't have a cigarette right before you walk in, unless you're doing it on Zoom. then you could do it Kevin O'Leary's way in your trousers, as they call it in England. And just listen. Go into that meeting listening. I promise you, a 30-minute meeting, listen, you can walk out with your biggest contract.
I love that.
So-
By the way, so Ellie, I'm assuming next time you go to Atlantic City and you sit down for lunch, you're going to say, hold on, I remember this conversation. Can you refer me to somebody?
If that day is all about adding 10 referrals to my portfolio, but if it's not, because I accomplished that for the quarter or for the month, or it's not the mental state of the people that are sitting there, then I'm not going to do it. I heard it by,
For sure.
oh, let's talk about another educational thing. I went to a fundraiser. Many of you know I founded an organization many years ago. So
I'm
okay,
sorry, Ellie.
Bible-
For Ellie, I apologize. For those that don't know, what is it?
The Hope Organization was founded in Lakewood in 2015 to help families that fall into financial stress due to a crisis, no matter what type of crisis. How do we help them? By providing a one-time financial relief, typically around $10,000. So if you're, God forbid, let's just make it simple, in the hospital with a situation, we help by feeding the family. We'll
Amazing.
pay a couple of months of tuition, so you're not worried about that expense. So, at that seminar, they brought on a few donors to educate the fundraisers, like, what is it like on the other side of the aisle? And I learned it because I heard it so clearly from this philanthropist, let's call him. Okay, he says, all of you fundraisers could show up at my kid's wedding, but do me one favor: just hug all my friends as if it's me. Don't ask them for a donation. Don't book your meeting at my wedding. My wedding is not your booking schedule time. But give everybody a hug. Wish him congratulations and wish him the best with his kids. And that's what I started doing. And I want to tell you, it increased my relationship building with current donors by 10x. By 10x. And I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to be very vulnerable. People used to see me at events or even in the grocery. Oh, he's going to ask me for a donation. He's probably in the red. He needs something. Today, people see me as, how are you? What's going on? I created that persona because I was very, very hungry and I didn't have all the education back in the day. So I did it the hard way. I pounded and asked everybody for donations. Today, there's a whole different attitude. It's about, it's great to see you. So
I want to tell you, Meirav just mentioned listening is key, and I want to talk about listening. It's not just listening; it's listening to the environment. You mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier, and I want to talk about there for a minute. You're sitting around a table. You're going to a wedding, right? You're going to an event, and you're trying to do business at the wedding, and people don't have the head for it. They don't have the headspace for it. And I understand why people think of it as an opportunity, but I'm going to double down on what you're saying. Imagine there's a potential client you're trying to meet, and you wanted to go to the trade show to meet him and you couldn't meet him. And, you really devastated over it. And then the next day you go to lunch and you see him sitting there for lunch. You have an opportunity now to either get to know the person, right? Or you could just attack in terms of asking for a meeting. Which route do you take? So obviously the route is listen to your environment. I'm going to take what you said, Meirav, about listening. And I love all the feedback, guys. Keep it coming. Listen to the environment, understand where you are. I have to tell you something real quick about that. An interesting small story that happened to me. I'm also going to be vulnerable because you're vulnerable. And Miguel, it's your turn next, by the way.
Get ready for it. I'm enjoying this. And just hearing Ellie speak, it's just, he's been to 1,000 trade shows, and I'm taking notes. I'm waiting for the recording to come out to replay this for my next one. But it's just, you can identify the person that's really confident and really comfortable at a trade show. And that's my go-to person. So I'm ready to speak my mind when it comes to it. But just know that, Ellie, if I were to see you at a trade show, I'd be right behind you. You'd be the first person that I introduce myself to.
That's a great compliment. That's a great compliment.
Thank you.
Because Miguel usually follows me. So now he's going to start following you. It's a big compliment.
Oh, yeah.
Michael,
I follow Michael, I'll tell you that.
Michael, I'm going to let you get back to your point, but Miguel, to your point, I want to share the secret with everybody. It didn't happen overnight, but at a certain point, and I'm going to say it was about 5 years ago, I started telling myself I need to start reflecting and understanding what I got to change. because just running with the same horse is not getting me fast enough where I want to get to. So until I didn't realize I have to reflect and change, and I think that's where I went with that. So go, Michael. You finished, but I want to just tell everybody we're in that segment already of being there. Okay, we talk about that, lunch, having fun. If the lunch is the fun factor, then don't ask him for an appointment at that time. You have his cell phone number, you have his email address. If you had a fun time with him, he'll reply back to your email tomorrow and say, "Yeah, let's meet next week." Ask, is next week a good time? But go, Michael.
No,
Raise that segment. Second segment.
Well, I just want to tell the audience so you guys all know what to look forward to. Next week, I'm going to be at the Zimit conference, and the Zimit conference ends on Thursday. At 12 o'clock live, I'm going to do a program, LinkedIn Live session at the actual Zimit conference. And I'm going to approach people. I'm going to do it on my phone, and I'm going to walk right over to people, and I'm going to see how it works. I'm going to use the methods that we learned today. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to engage in a conversation that's relevant. I'm going to keep it light depending on what area I'm in. Maybe I'll do it from the lunchroom. Maybe I'll do it from the trade show floor. Maybe I'll move around. But I'm looking forward for everyone tuning in next week to follow up on this conversation in terms of those 3 steps of the trade show. Of course, we can jump around in terms of preparing for trade shows, being at the trade shows, and after the trade shows. And we're talking about being at the trade shows now, and we'll get back to that in a minute. But I was just remembering that I had somebody who was sending me a message, and he's a friend, and every other week it was another charity. And, the message would be, hey, this is a couple and they really need help. And this is an organization that they really need help. And, I was with a friend of mine, and I said, I'm going to respond and say, I'm sorry that I can't really help right now because, I'm in the middle of other things. I felt bad because it really touched my heart, the story that he wrote to me. So I responded to the guy and I said, hey, I apologize. I can't really help right now, but I love what you're doing. Keep it up. And, next time, maybe it'll be the right time for me. His response, you don't have $18? That was his response to me. My response to that was, I'm never responding to any one of his charity requests again. And that's what happened. So I'm going to build up on what you said earlier, which is building those relationships and making it meaningful and reading the environment. I'm going to tell you guys another secret that I was going to wait till next week, but I'm going to let you guys in on it now. And that is, I have another way to be successful at the actual trade show. I gave away the secret number 1, and Ellie's right there with me, is go into those panels, let the people see that you're interested in getting educated, get to know your audience, listen to the conversation, engage in the panelists afterwards. What an amazing opportunity when you go to a panel to engage with the panel afterwards, especially if you have the guts like my friend Elliot, who did it at ECAP, and get up and ask a relevant question if you're prepared enough, which is the best thing to do. The next best kept secret that we have internally at PrimeSource, and I tell everybody this, is look for someone who's alone. Look around the room, listen to the audience, scope the situation, see someone that's alone. Don't even look at their badge. It's very, very difficult, guys. I've done this every single trade show, and I can tell you I have 100% success rate with this, with building a connection that was meaningful, that led to positive outcomes, whether it was a vendor, whether it was a connection, whether it was a provider, an operator. You find someone that's alone, obviously not in the middle of a conversation, but you find someone standing there alone or sitting there alone. You just walk right up to them and you say, hi, it's so nice to meet you. I'm Michael Greenfield from PrimeSource. What's your name? You'd be so surprised, Ellie. Miguel, have you tried that recently? Because I know I've asked you to do it in the past.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen, I have a story. I'm at the Ohio show and I see someone struggling with a big box. They have to bring it over to the front desk. And, it's a huge box. They don't have a car. They can handle it, but it's a long walk. So I offer, hey, I can help you with it. Let me carry it half the way you carry it the other half. No problem. We start walking, brought the box over. Thank you so much. How's your time going? How you doing? All that stuff. And then everything else started coming naturally. Oh, well, what do you do? And I explained what I did. Oh, amazing. I'm actually looking for this particular service. Oh, well, great. We have contacts in that service. Let me introduce you to them. Customer. So it was just helping someone in a moment, connecting in that moment, how was your lunch? How was your dinner? What do you have plans tonight? They have a great pizza place down the road, turned into oh yeah, I could definitely use a service like that.
Miguel, I've seen you in action, and I have to tell you that you are so personable, and you're living by the golden rule that Scott just mentioned here on the chat, which is treat others as you would like to be treated. And Scott, that resonates a lot with us in terms of, our upbringing, and I'm sure it does you as well, which is why you're mentioning it. It's an idea of, togetherness, right? So I want to be treated like, this a certain way, and I want someone to treat me that way. I don't want to be at lunch and someone should bother me. Everyone can be sold on something, right? Even though I'm going to a trade show and I'm trying to sell my service, there could be someone else who's trying to sell me on their service, right? So everybody's a potential client for someone. Think how you want to be treated. When you're sitting at lunch, like Ellie was saying, do you want to be bothered about the vendor-specific concept of his business right now while the lasagna is entering your mouth, right? Do you want to be bothered in the middle of a conversation? So I love that. Treat others like you want to be treated, meaning people want to be treated with respect. People want to be treated like humans. When you walk over to somebody, don't be nervous about what you need to say to them. Just say hello. Because if someone came over to you and said, hi there, my name is Michael Greenfield, you would say, hi, my name is Elliot. And you would have a conversation and you would discuss it with them because that's how you want to be treated. Ellie, does that ever happen to you? Have you ever gone to people who are standing alone?
So I have to, I have to share a few things on this one. I've definitely done it. It never resonated with me. So what I'll say is I never did it intentionally. So I heard it from Simon Sinek, believe it or not, because he's actually an introvert, which is unbelievable if you read about him.
I love Simon Sinek. I love him. The Why, What, How.
Okay, so he tells me when I heard him on his podcast, and I heard it 10 times already from him, and every time I hear it, he's that guy that's sitting at the outline, okay? He's not in the center of the box, okay? And he's actually just waiting for someone to come say hello. And he made some of his best friends from those that actually came over to him. And I don't know, and he says it himself, I don't know if those people even knew who I am. And I don't know if, going back, if I was who I was back then, but I made great friends that way. So it's about becoming a little humble. Even someone like myself, I'm 18 years in a specific industry. I'm a high I, okay? I'm the peak. I'm the parrot in the room. I like big, noisy places. And then sometimes I don't. It's interesting, okay? So I have that a little bit of it, that introvert also. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. But let me tell you something. I went to a recent show without mentioning any names, and I had no intention of being there. And nobody at the show needed me. Not from the Culinary Depot team. There were other salespeople there. And I said to myself, I'm going for two reasons. And we touched on it before. Number one, the brand. I'm a piece of Culinary Depot. I've been there for so many years. People know my face and they think culinary. So I'm just going for that reason alone. I'm a walking billboard. I don't have to have the word Culinary Depot on my back anymore. That's number one. Number two, I made it my business at that show to stop every new kid on the block. Sorry that I'm saying it in that way. So anybody that looked to me to the age of 20 to 30, I said, what's your name? What do you do? And why'd you come? And some of them I asked, what can I help you with? And then
wow, I have to clap.
Yeah, you can applaud. But
I really have to. That's amazing. That really is amazing.
But Michael, I did it because I prepared myself for it. I mentally prepared myself the day before to have the headspace to absorb. And I'm telling you, I spoke to at least 60 or 70 kids under the age of 35.
Wow.
Some of them were very, very meaningful conversations. So that's another thing, like prepare and being there. Now, we're in the segment of being there. I know we have another 15 minutes for a hard stop before we get into dessert in regards to the follow-up. I have to stress one thing, and it's going to go deep if I could, Michael. And if you want, we could talk about it another whole segment. I'm happy to come on. This is what I love doing. You can feel my passion, hopefully, out there. Being at the trade show requires, I'm using that word, it requires you to shut your phone. If you decided to go, show up, and be there, I can't tell you how many times I get so turned off. I'm sorry I use that word. I'm in the middle of a conversation with someone, and it could be I have a referral for him, meaning he's another service provider. It's not a potential client. Potential client can do whatever the hell he wants. That's where I use customer could be right in that sense, up to a certain degree. I'm in the middle of asking questions or learning about someone else's service. Hello. I'm at a trade show. Do you think the guy really cares that you're at a trade show? Dude, I don't know. You spent let's say $500 to get there. You slept away from your family for a night. You traveled on a plane. Dude, put the phone away. I have a Remarkable, okay? And I bought it for one of those reasons. I take notes on something that has no internet device. Be present. That's what be present means. Be present doesn't mean that you have to be an extrovert if you're an introvert. Stay an introvert, be yourself, be humble, and be present. So we're talking about being there, you said. That's what I want to stress on. And be respectful. It's not okay to text someone back while I'm trying to understand what you're doing. Put yourself in the other person's shoe. Understand that you may only have his attention about 30 seconds. Let me tell you guys, by the way, it's 17 seconds until that guy's attention is gone. So if you said the wrong thing in the first 17 seconds, you're off track. You now have to figure out what to say to get him back into the conversation. Focus.
I want to jump in on this a little, and we'll save the follow up for the third part of this series. So next week it's going to be live at the Zimmit Show. We're very, very excited about that.
One second. Where is the Zimmit Show? Where is it?
It's
and
in
how
Connecticut.
do you register?
It's in Connecticut. I'll put the link in the notes after this program. Last year, I just want to proudly say, at the Zimmit Show, Prime Source throws the opening party together with other sponsored vendors. This year, I think it's with Qualmax. We have a lot of very cool things happening at the Zimmit Show. We're honored to throw the opening party of the Zimmit Show every single year. It's such a great vibe, such great energy, a place where literally you don't have a choice but to shut your phone. It's so loud and the energy is so amazing. Last year, I met a potential client, which I didn't know was going to be a potential client at the time, playing basketball. I literally walked up to her because she was by herself playing basketball, started playing ball with her. She ended up being the CEO of a very large organization, which is currently a client. So, I'm looking forward to that Zimmit Live that we're going to do next week. And then the third part of the series is going to be the follow-up, along with everything else that we may have missed in our third series. But I want to focus on that now, which is being present. The biggest gift in life is the present. Let's talk about that for a second, because when I'm going to a show, besides telling people to shut their phones, which I agree with you, I didn't know what you were going to say when you said shut your phones. So I'm happy that that's what you said, because it's true. It should be shut your phone. Just shut it. Close it down. Listen to what's happening. Be present. Treat others like you want to be treated. Those are the takeaways. I want to tell you, when I started off going to trade shows, I was guilty for doing everything wrong. I was excited. I was high energy. And I thought I can't give myself enough to all the people that I want to. So I would talk to people, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see me on the camera. I have a green screen behind me because I'm at a studio that we're going to fill in afterwards for the recording. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but I would talk to people like this. I would say, hey, it's so nice to meet you. How you doing? So what are you here for? Oh, you want supplies? Oh, you services? And that's how I would talk to people. I would look the other way because I was so busy looking for the next person that I wouldn't be able to focus on the person in front of me. So I want to focus on that for a minute, because I personally made that mistake. Just like you owned up to it, Ellie. This is good therapy for both of us. We're opening up as much as we can. Again, Miguel, you got to think of that story, because you got to be vulnerable in a minute of a time that you potentially learned for something. I went through those moments. I went through those years, and then I realized that it's not meaningful relationships. And then it came a time, like I shared on the podcast a few weeks ago with Ushi, on the None of Your Business podcast that we have. I shared with him that ultimately being vulnerable and just connecting to people, and just, I even spoke about this, I have a napkin theory. Somebody who is pouring a cup of coffee and spills it, if you find that opportunity to grab a napkin for someone, wow, look out for those opportunities. Be present, be engaging, don't look around. Build those relationships, make them meaningful. So Miguel, your turn.
Yeah, of course. And I want to tie everything together, from the Scott message, about treating others with respect, reading the room. And my very first trade show, I went in there thinking I was going to walk out with 1 million customers. I went in there strong. I was like, yes, I'm going to meet everyone, introduce myself. I'm going to come out and I'm going to be amazing. But I did make one mistake. I was present, but I was not present. And what I mean by that is I was at the trade show for myself. I'm gonna get customers. What I failed to do was build relationships with other people at the trade shows. I was approached by so many people selling me their services, telling me about their company, but I was so focused on what I was doing, what I wanted to win at, that I didn't give them the time. Fast forward 10, 12 shows later, I started giving people time. Let me listen to what they have to say, because later down the road, I might find someone that needs that service, or I myself might need that service. So not only am I present for the potential prospect, but I'm also present to the vendors. I'm present to the people that run the event. If they're looking for a crowd to square dance in the middle because the DJ is calling everyone to square dance, I'm present. I'm going to go square dance because I know that that's what I would want to see. So I would treat someone that is, treating me as a prospect. Let me listen to you. I might not use your service, but I'm going to give you the time of day because I would want you to give me the time of day.
I love it,
So-
Miguel. I love it. That's exactly right. And it's taking what you learned from the beginning. It's okay for all of us to make mistakes because we have guys like Ellie looking around to teach us when we're there.
Yeah, but at that same trade show, by the way, it was interesting because another equal competitor, I call it to myself, we're both in it for 18 years. He said, Ellie, if we don't start teaching others, we're just going to be hustling it for the rest of our lives. And Michael, that's to your point, why you do this live, why you have your podcast. We're here to help people not make the same mistakes. It doesn't mean that you have to make mistakes in order to grow. You'll make everyone will make their own mistakes in their own way, but take the wisdom, the guidance. I tell everybody it's guidance. I'm not here to educate you from the sense of do what I did. No, don't do it. It worked for me. Figure out on your own what works for you.
Absolutely.
But I want to go back to one thing with shutting the phone so people don't take it out of perspective, okay? If you don't have who to delegate, or you're the person that's in the customer service / sales seat all day long, don't go to 36 trade shows, okay? So I, thank God, maybe some of my customers will hear this, but I believe 99% of my customers are 100% okay with the fact that they're not going to get in touch with me on that day, on that minute. And I have a staff to handle 99% of the urgent matters, okay? And even 99% of the operations and daily stuff that go on. So set yourself up correctly. That's by, being there or back to the prep. Get a good night of sleep. Have a good breakfast.
Absolutely. I want to interject something real quick about the brand, but go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, so just I want to make sure that people understand that in the sense of, don't shut your phone and ignore the world and create yourself fires for the next day, because that's gonna actually backfire on the follow-up factor. Because if you didn't prepare on your schedule the clarity that you need, let's talk about Zimmit. Zimmit's over on Thursday. On Friday, you need to figure out that, meaning have that time to understand exactly what your follow-up execution plan is. Okay, it's more important than the execution of being at the show, and it's even more important than the execution of preparing for the show. Because what good is it if you did 2 out of the 3 perfect and you left the third one out?
I love that. I love that. Maybe we'll have you back on the third part of this series when we're doing the follow-up, because there's a lot to talk about on it.
I was going to say, I'm so hungry to come to Zimmit. I'll be honest, it was not on my radar. Okay, I don't know why. I do know about the show from many years ago. I think because I'm focused in too many different areas at one point. But I'm going to figure out if I can get my schedule freed to be in Connecticut for next week, Thursday.
Yeah,
So
you can be my +1. Don't worry. You come with me. I'll get you in.
there you go. And I saw someone mention that they're going to look out to see if I'm that person that they can have a one-on-one chat. And let me tell you something. If you're not going to tap me on the shoulder, you're not going to get it. I walk around these days at trade shows like the Daisy guy, like who needs me today? Who wants to have a meaningful conversation?
Yeah, it was.
One second. That's because I go to walk the show. Okay. If I'm there to be in my booth, let me tell you something. 99% of the time I'm in my booth, and I'll make sure to show up either an hour before doors open if I want to talk to other vendors. Okay. While the other vendor's finishing his booth, I'm not going to go tell him about how good I am or what I'm up to. Like if he's having coffee, can we talk for 2 minutes? These are my clients. This is my, my potential client. Maybe there's someone that we can share, who is it that you want and look for. So organize yourself, understand why you're going to the show and what is it that you want to take away, and do the right thing.
That, by the way, that's an amazing tip that we can talk about, just that alone. Come early so you can meet
Yeah.
the other vendors at the trade show. I can't tell you guys how sometimes people standing around the trade show floors and just waiting for it to open, it's an enormous opportunity to get to know the vendors. And that's a very, very important thing that I feel like, because similar to what you said earlier, don't have a cigarette and then walk into a trade show. The reason why you shouldn't have that is because I think the mistake that people make when they go to a trade show or where they sell a service is they think they're selling someone else's brand. They're really not. When you're selling a product or a service, you're selling yourself. You're selling your brand. You're selling your image. You're selling your look, your attitude, your energy, your scent. You're selling yourself. And that is the brand that you carry with you. So if you come early to a trade show and people see you and you engage politely with others and you speak to people who aren't there, and people see that and they see that you're at the panel, that's your brand. You're the brand of the person that communicates well. You're the brand of the person that cares about others. Like Mark was saying earlier on the chat here, even if you don't care about yourself, you still need to care about others, of course. And Scott, we will find you at the Zimmett Show for sure. I'm looking forward to it. It reminded me of one other tip that I want to mention. And I say this all the time. And I hope that everyone who goes to trade shows gets this message. Stop sitting down in your booth. If you're sitting down in your booth, you may as well throw a few $1,000s in the garbage. When I walk around trade show floors and I see the reps that are sitting down, I literally wonder to myself, why are you wasting your time? You have 2 hours to be on your game, on your A game when the show floor opens, right? Don't sit down. Don't even ask anyone on my team, Miguel can tell you, and anyone else on our team can tell you, we don't have chairs at our booths. I don't allow it. It's not a place for you to sit down and relax. It's a place for you to get your high energy up and meet people and network with people. It's just so important. Ellie, you see chairs, you see people sitting down. Does that frustrate you? I'm curious.
I can't tell you, and that's going back to almost like why you're at the trade show. Do you know how many times I go to trade shows and there are vendors there that just have to be there? The salesman is not interested in doing a darn thing. And I say, what a pity. He might as well just take a day of vacation. Like, it's such a, and let me tell you, he comes out of that trade show sitting behind the desk and he's wiped. Okay. He traveled. It's a long day. It's loud. It's noisy. People are annoying him all day long because they're asking questions and he doesn't want to do anything. So 100%, I'm with you. If you're the person in the booth, bring your A game. Be that energetic person. Stay curious. And another thing, take an extra shirt in the car. Okay. If it's sweaty like hell, okay, nobody wants to see that on your shirt. And if you spilled the coffee, you got to have another one. Okay.
I love that tip. I love that tip. Go with an extra shirt.
Go with an extra shirt. Okay. I saw it just the other day. Okay. I met with a leadership team. Okay. The guy came into the meeting with a white shirt. He's the guy who hustles. I saw him 2 hours later in a semi-construction site with a t-shirt. 4 hours later, he was at dinner. He was showered with a brand new shirt. Like he just came from home and he didn't leave. So that's number one. So yeah, be present, be presented properly. Okay. Stay in your comfort zone. I'm a Hasidic Jew. I go with my long jacket everywhere. I don't care what type of trade show it is. Number one. Number two, polish your shoes, please. Okay. That's the second biggest fine dress. I don't care if you wear Versace or, Ferragamo. I don't care what type of shoes they are. So I make it my business in the big trade shows. Yeah. I go to the guy who shoe shines. It cost me $15. Maybe today it's already 25. It's well worth it. And you present it properly. And
I love that. And like Shane said, always be prepared for everything. An extra shirt, a charger. There's a lot of tips and tricks that we can share, and we'll continue this next week, Thursday. I'm looking forward to it. And like Kim said earlier on the chat, you're a brand ambassador, but you're not just the brand ambassador for the company. You're your own brand ambassador. Miguel, any final thoughts or questions?
Yeah, final thoughts on the show up early. Definitely show up early. Always meet the people around you, get a feel of what the environment is, know where everything is, but most importantly, show up early for the free stuff first. Get first dibs on all the good stuff.
I love that. We're going to take that tip to the bank. I'm going to show up early and we're going to meet everybody. Guys, thank you again for showing up today on our LinkedIn live session. See you all next week. Have a great day, everybody.
thank you, Michael, for inviting me. It was awesome. Thank you. I look forward to another one.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.